Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky with a murderer's row of games coming up for the Lakers. Should the Denver loss make people feel worse, or is there hope? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one is always free. It is never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 23,000 subscribers, all of whom are wondering how exactly the Lakers are going to handle the next six games, Andy, all against high-end playoff teams. So we'll unpack that after Saturday's loss to Denver. We'll unpack all of those things and get into LeBron versus the haters on today's episode. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So we didn't have a chance really to talk about this game, Andy, because you were off doing radio for ESPN LA, Lakers flagship radio station. You had the post game on Saturday, so we each kind of analyzed it on our own. But especially in the context of what the Lakers have coming up, I know you mentioned this when we were kind of texting back and forth. It is possible to take both very discouraging lessons and actually some optimistic thoughts from Saturday's game.
Look, if the Lakers on balance play the next 6 games they have, the murderer's row you referenced, and just the next 22 games on the schedule period, if they play like they did against Denver, on balance, I think they're going to win more than they lose. They played most of this game, I think, pretty well. There is now definitive proof, I think, unless demonstrated otherwise, they're not as good as Denver. But that may be the case for every team in the West. It may be the case for every team in the NBA. Denver is really, really good. I mean, even last night at not entirely full strength, but certainly when they are at full strength, they're really, really good. Mm-hmm. But the Lakers played very well throughout a lot of that game. They did not play perfect. They played worse in the second half. And if you give a team like Denver that may execute better than any team in the league, especially in crunch time, if you give them even a smaller window, they will find a way to slide through it. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot the Lakers did well in this game. And there are certain elements of it that are correctable in terms of things that didn't go well. I actually went back and rewatched the second half of the game just because I was curious to see if certain things jumped out at me with a little bit more time and distance, and also just the ability to rewatch some things that I may not have thought about the same way in real time. If they jumped out the same, like what I observed, what I didn't, or whatever. It's one thing to get outplayed by Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is arguably the best player in the league, and he's, I'd say, matchup proof. I don't know if there is an answer to Jokic.
No, and the Lakers, to their credit, I think up until I have problems the last 5 minutes, but for 43 minutes of the game, I actually think the Lakers were pretty smart in how they tried to defend him in throwing different looks, in keeping AD off of him to some degree, which allows Davis more access to the rebounding, more weak side help, all that kind of stuff. I liked what they did for a lot of the game, but you're right. You can't, if Jokic doesn't put up Jokic numbers, it's probably because he's having an off night. It's probably not, or certainly less, because of what you're doing to him.
Yeah. I mean, he's really, really good and really, really difficult to contain.
Yeah.
But that being said, though, rewatching this game, AD was way too passive offensively.
I agree.
Like, he was not involved, but he was not involved in part because I don't think he was very active in terms of getting himself in a place where he'd be better involved. Like, he wasn't getting good position down low. He was not actively calling for the ball. He was just kind of screening and floating. And when he got the ball, I didn't think he acted for the most part very decisively. I thought when they ran action for AD, it developed too slow, which eliminates all the foot speed advantage that he would have over Jokic. And you mentioned the part, and this may be armchair psychiatry on my part, but you mentioned the piece about keeping AD off Jokic defensively. And I understand the logic behind it. I think you summarized it perfectly. And I think it's a logic that makes sense. But I also wonder in retrospect if it actually, in certain respects, sparks that passivity, because he's not directly involved in the primary action of the game defensively, which maybe allows him to wander more literally, mentally, metaphorically, whatever, offensively, and he's not as locked into the game. But if nothing else, I think they needed to move off this quicker than they did, or just do it at all.
I think what they needed to do, I mean, it's not like he didn't guard Jokic at different points during the game, but it was
not much. He did not do it much.
It was not, he was not the primary guy, possession.
He was
possession.
Borderline not even the secondary defender on Jokic.
When you get down to the last 4 or 5, 6 minutes, that's when I think they really needed to make that change. And it was one of the things that I listed. But even then, like, okay, fine, defense is defense. And you could be correct about, sort of the psychological impact, or maybe it is, he was hard. I don't think he was not engaged defensively, but it is a different deal when, you're the primary guy on Jokic. He was doing a lot of work back there. But where I think it needs to change is just down the stretch, he needed to guard him, but none of that should for a player of Anthony Davis's caliber, none of that should influence the lack of aggression offensively. This was just one of those games where Davis, whether for game plan, for Denver's defense, for content, whatever it is, and then his own sort of tendencies, worst tendencies, he was not big enough in this. So if you start making a list of the stuff, and I know we want to talk about the bench a little bit too, if you start making a list of the reasons the Lakers lost this game, Jokic outplays Anthony Davis offensively, certainly is in that group. Bench scoring, bench production is absolutely in that group. Aaron Holiday had 13 points. The Lakers bench, I think, had 12 or 13. They were outscored by Aaron Holiday, or equivalently. Justin Holiday, thank you. Too many holidays. And, you start going down the line. Rebounding, 47-31, Denver. And then, oh, by the way, Michael Porter Jr. went 10 for freaking 10. So, how you want to prioritize those things, your star needed to be better. I'm saying that is a big deal in a game like this. When you're not the best team, Darvin Ham, by the way, was a big part of my list, the last 6 minutes of this game, especially. But I think it is reasonable to start with LA's star was a step beneath Denver's. That is important.
Yeah. And that is something that in particular jumped out at me more rewatching that second half than it did in real time. Like not stupid. I recognized from the outset Jokic outplayed him.
Right, but it sort of snuck up on me a little bit that, like, wait a minute, he hasn't taken a shot in like 8 minutes or whatever. Like it snuck on me a little bit too.
But it also too, like the how he went about not taking that many shots and the why he went about not taking that many shots. Like there were other things that jumped out at me too. Like, I'm sure we'll get into the use or lack thereof of D'Lo down the stretch. It's funny that the timeout that people were complaining about. Talk about this a little bit more.
Talk about this after the break, because I want to get into that.
One of the things that upon rewatch I felt much differently about than I did in the moment, actually in Darvin's favor than I did in the moment.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the bench. We'll get into all of it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Just $5, put it down on whatever you want. You win. That's $150 in bonus bets to use at your disposal. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, with live same-game parlays, exclusive props, so many different options. Obviously, there are options involving your Lakers, Anthony Davis for Defensive Player of the Year, LeBron James MVP, the Lakers making it to the finals, and so on and so forth. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
All right, so let's get into some of those things. Let's start with Darvin, and then we'll go to the bench because, like I said, I spent a lot of time on Darvin. Was critical not really of the entire game, but I was critical of the last 5 or 6 minutes. And the big point there for me was the Lakers are not as good as Denver. I think that is clear. I don't think they are not light years behind Denver, and I think Denver's a bad matchup for the Lakers, especially when Porter Jr. is on. They just don't have a natural cover for him. And by the way, very few teams do, because I don't think everybody necessarily realizes how tall Michael Porter Jr. is. And so he can shoot over almost anyways. He has really high release and all that. So anyway, I did not like D'Angelo Russell not playing in favor of Cam Reddish.
Me neither.
That was too clever by half.
You know who else it's being speculated did not like that decision? D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
He put this out on Instagram after the game. It's a photo of him and his adorable young son sitting on the bench, which many are interpreting as D'Lo making a statement about himself being on the bench.
I just think, I understand, look, you're going for defense more than offense. Russell, it gets picked on down the stretch. We've seen this play over and over again by Denver, where they start to hunt matchups and they'll do that and whatever. And so it's like, okay, fine. I get what you're saying, but I get your logic, Darvin, but at the same, you don't want to, Darvin's always accused of playing favorites. Well, look, we're trying to do something different here. And, get your best player. First of all, get your best players on the floor. First and foremost, against a team that is better than you, get your best players out there. Second, maybe if you're up by 10, up by 9, you tilt that heavily towards defense. But Lakers couldn't score. Denver's going on a run. Lakers can't score to stop it. You need to get players out there to facilitate your better offense. And third, if you're trying to get a guy into a place where he feels like he isn't going to be on this, with this stigma of the guy you play off the floor in important moments, and he's clearly being your, I think, third best player for most of the year. Reeves is making
it's been D'Angelo Russell, right. And frankly, it's not a conversation.
Right. Reeves is trying to make that a much more competition, which is great, but in my mind, Russell's been their third best player. Why would you reinforce that without making Denver do it for you? You understand what I'm saying? Like, make the thing a problem before it becomes one where you proactively change it. And you're not doing it for Jared Vanderbilt. You're doing it for Cam Reddish, who, no disrespect to Cam, is not the same defender that Vanderbilt is.
No, okay. Nor for that matter.
I bogarted some of your points.
No. You didn't. There's a few other.
Oh, good.
There's a few other things I want to add to that. I mean, it's not even that, or just that Cam Reddish is not Vando. Reddish was not having any success guarding Murray in this game. For that matter, neither was Austin Reeves. And I'm not saying that to be critical of either one of them.
I know where
Jamal Murray is a killer. Murray was cooking everybody that was defending him. But what was interesting about this, Brian, particularly this jumped out at me rewatching the second half, but I had notes in the first half. It was basically the same. You know who barely guarded Jamal Murray in this game at all? D'Angelo Russell.
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo Russell not only really didn't guard Murray in this game, The Nuggets were actually not going out of their way to hunt D'Angelo Russell in this game at all.
No, but they might have started to do that down the stretch.
They had three quarters of a game to do it.
But I still wouldn't have taken him off the floor.
Sure, I wouldn't have either. But what I'm saying is, like, there will be a natural assumption. And I mean, I saw this, people hitting us up on Twitter at Cam Brothers, or people talking about it in the comments section of, the YouTube channel. The idea that D'Lo was getting cooked in this game.
Oh, right. That
honestly,
part, sure.
D'Lo was a defensive afterthought in this game in ways that honestly surprised me. But
sure.
beyond that, over the course of this season, D'Angelo Russell's been good enough defensively. He's not a great defender by any stretch, nor will he ever be. Just ask D'Angelo Russell. But he has not been a problem defensively this year the way he was last year. And swinging this back to what you said earlier, Brian, the idea that you would preemptively take him out because defensive issues that haven't been happening as much this season, but certainly were not happening in this game. D'Angelo Russell's absence hurts them more offensively with this team than him on the court hurts them defensively.
I agree.
I think that's just been proven over the course of this year.
Or at the very least, you got to make him do it. You got to make the opponent make you take him off the floor. Don't do it for him. And, you lose. Cam Reddish is I know he had a 3 and, Cam Reddish is a deeply negative offensive player.
I also don't think he's all the way back physically.
I think that's probably true. And so if you're not getting the offensive boost that he's on the floor to give you, or the defensive boost, then he's not going to help you more than D'Lo. And it took way too long for Darvin to respond to that. Great. You put Russell back on the floor, 90 seconds left in the game. Game's already over. You're down by 7. For that matter, I felt like he was too slow. I know you had something to say about the timeout. I felt like he was a little slow on that one as well.
What?
Into the game.
I thought that in the moment too, but then upon rewatching it, I realized he had just called a timeout like a minute and a half before that. And if he had called a timeout when everybody wanted him to, or when it seemed like everybody wanted him to, he actually would have wiped out a possession where AD scored. Like, there really wasn't much. To be fair to Darvin, I don't think there actually was much of a time to use a timeout, especially that soon after a timeout. And if you think the game might start getting closer again, like, he had actually just called one, and they just had the timeout with the
well, I get it. I get it, but like,
in the moment it bothered me. Rewatching it, I'm like, you know what? I had forgotten that he had just called that one. I actually had forgotten.
I mean, I went back and looked at it. I think you got to use him. And it was, Malone, for example. And again, we've talked about this. I am more agnostic on the magical power of timeouts than almost anybody you'll find, who watches a lot of NBA.
No, for sure.
And I was like, they need one here. Like, because, and it's sort of like with LeBron when, the other night when LeBron wasn't and took him, 2 possessions standing.
That was more egregious. I think that was more.
I happen to agree with you that it was, but it's like one possession, an extra possession, one extra thing here when you're getting down against a team that's out executing you. I don't care if you just call timeout, call another one. The bottom line here is, and where I think this is really important, it's just that the problem with Darvin is that the Lakers are not better than Denver. They are not better than the Clippers. They're not way worse, and they're on the level. And you get to a playoff series, and I think the Lakers in a series could beat just about anybody, although maybe not Denver.
I don't know if anybody can beat them.
No, and it'd be like, matchup to matchup, the Lakers, there are teams that the Lakers could absolutely beat in a 7-game series. But when you are the lesser team, Miami, great example of this, and I don't expect Darvin to be Spo, but the thing that always equalizes Miami when they are slightly under-talented, whatever it might be, is that Spo is the best coach in the league. And I don't need Darvin to be that good. That's not a fair expectation in his second season. But you got to be better than he's been. And even when if he's not helping, sometimes he's just, even on the margins, just actively hurting, that can really be problematic. Big game coming up tonight. Lakers versus the Thunder. You can catch every minute of Lakers hometown broadcasts with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Lakers, 7:30 start tonight for the Lakers at home against Oklahoma City. They need to find ways to win these games. We'll talk about this one, Andy, next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. The easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is just you against the numbers. Pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It is demon time on PrizePicks. You now win up to 100 times your money, quite possibly, with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Demons and Goblins are the newest, most exciting way to play at PrizePicks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. And PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25%, giving you even more value. PrizePicks also offers Apple Play for quick and easy deposits into your account this basketball season. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Quick reminder, 7:30 tonight, Lakers versus the Thunder. Catch every minute of Lakers broadcast, the hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Lakers. The Thunder coming off of a win on Sunday in Phoenix. Of course, they are young and bouncy, Andy, so they should be plenty spry for a game against the Lakers the next day. But we were talking in the last segment, like
they enter the building, by the way, having done the Lakers a favor.
Yeah. Matchup to maybe do another one and lose. matchup. The Lakers, this is actually, and I love the Thunder. I mean, we remember before the season, they were one of the teams that we were, talking about our friends at FanDuel. Like, you guys want to throw a little money or, put a little money on a team that is a little further down the board that could do well for you. Both of us were like, Oklahoma City is where you go. They can make the leap really fast. And they absolutely have. But that said, the Lakers are actually a decent, when they have all their players, especially, pretty good matchup for Oklahoma City in the sense that they can bully them down low with Anthony Davis. Chet's a little skinny for that. And while they struggle, the Lakers, with Shea, so does everyone. And if you can leverage some advantages in other places around the floor, this is the Lakers at home can run with the Thunder here. This is not a game that, anybody should expect them to lose.
They're 2-1 against them this season.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Anthony Davis. All 3 games, he's been really good against the Thunder. Even the game where the Lakers got blown out, AD had a really good game in that one. So, I think it starts with Anthony Davis and that advantage that they should have. We just talked about how AD needed to be much more aggressive and assertive and active against Denver. A great way for him to redeem himself would be to establish that dominance right away against the Thunder, against Chet Holmgren, because especially you go beyond Holmgren, they have so little size on this team. Bismack Biyombo, and if they put Mike Muscala, who they just signed off the buyout market, like if they put him into the game, I guess
it's like the 36th time he's been a Thunder.
Yeah, he's going to have his number retired, not through any excellence or any meaningful contributions, but just he's been there enough. He's like Norm on Cheers. He just keeps appearing and everybody knows his name. But like, they have no real answer for Anthony Davis, and the AD needs to aggressively go at Chet, try to get Chet in foul trouble. I mean, Chet's a terrific player. He's having a really good season, but AD's better than him, and AD needs to show that in this game. Also, in terms of things the Lakers need to do that showed up poorly against Denver and need to be reversed immediately. They need some bench production.
Oh my God.
Badly, especially now that the Thunder have Gordon Hayward as one of the many guys on this team, Isaiah Joe, other Cason Wallace, who can score, at least get you a little bit of sneaky production. Since the All-Star break, Brian, here are your leading scorers for the Lakers.
Don't do this. Oh, please don't
off
do
the
this.
bench.
Oh,
Taurean Prince just under 21 minutes, averaging 5.2 points per game on 34% from the field, 26% from behind the arc. He has gone from playing very well off the bench to just a brutal slump.
He's in a bit of a
Spencer
slump.
Dinwiddie in just under 22 minutes, 4.7 points per game, 31% from the field, 28% from behind the arc, and 3 assists per game, which not setting the world on fire for 22 minutes, especially for a guy who has the ball in his hand a decent amount of time. And then, Jackson Hayes can only score in very specific ways manufactured for him. Cam Reddish is not a scorer.
Sorry, I was laughing at Jackson Hayes in the context of a man with a very specific set of skills, except they're not as useful as Liam Neeson's often.
No, Jackson Hayes would not get the equivalent of 3 movies.
I can kill you in one way. One way.
Right. One way, and I need a lot of help. I can't do it by myself.
Nope.
I need a lot of assistance.
Throw me the knife because
right. Reddish is not a scorer. Even if Christie started playing, he's not really a scorer either. Although I will say, if Prince does not break out of this slump, or Reddish doesn't start looking more right, I think they need to seriously consider giving Christie some of those minutes, because even if he's not scoring or making shots, he will at least give you more rebounding.
Obviously this is a size question. Both Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish outweigh Max Christie by probably 30 pounds. And so, while height wise, there's only a couple inches difference between them, 2-3 inches, which is not nothing. The weight difference in terms of who you can guard and all that stuff is a problem. I agree with you that you might have to just start making some of those adjustments. But to me, the bigger issue is, Dinwiddie, because to me, it's Dinwiddie that's really taking Christie's minutes. If you start playing Christie a lot, assuming you're still giving Russell minutes and assuming you're still giving Reeves minutes, you're going smaller more often. I'm not saying you can't do it. And I'm not saying he can't take minutes from Reddish and from Prince, but some of the minutes that some of his minutes pre-Dinwiddie were those minutes, were the minutes that Dinwiddie is now getting. And if Dinwiddie's production since the All-Star break has been really problematic, and they need more than that from him for 20 something minutes a night.
I disagree with you that those minutes are as directly connected to Christie. I think his minutes in terms of function on the court are much more connected to either Reddish or Prince. Dinwiddie is closer to Christie in terms of position and size, but what he does is so different than what Christie does. If you are looking for what Dinwiddie specifically provides, you're not going to find it from Christie.
No, you're not. I think the reason that Darvin is, other than the long list of Christie skepticism, examples of Christie skepticism that we've seen from Darvin over the course of the year, I do think that part of this is based on size, and stuff like that. So I could be wrong. And I'm not saying it's the only thing. There are 2 or 3 different players you could find to chip minutes away to get Christie on the floor. I'm just saying Dinwiddie is one of those people. And so the skill set isn't the same, but the position and the time on the floor, they are choosing Dinwiddie's skill set and stuff. And what I think, the promise of what they could get from him if he's playing at his full potential over the skill set of Max Christie. And it is okay if Dinwiddie is giving you peak Dinwiddie. It is not okay if he's giving you this.
Well, okay. I agree with you. I don't agree about the correlation between Dinwiddie and Christie. Again, I still think it's much more related to Prince and
That's
Reddish.
fine.
But that being said, they are trying their damnedest to get Dinwiddie going. And I think that is part of the reason that
they're running out of time.
Well, but I was going to say, I think it's part of the reason Dinwiddie is playing as many minutes as he is, despite not really producing. I think they really want to get him going and feel like it is important to get him going, if for no other reason than the likelihood of Gabe Vincent being able to contribute down the stretch is feeling increasingly less likely. So if you are looking for anybody to replicate what they brought in Gabe Vincent for in the first place, it's got to be Dinwiddie if you consider that skill set important.
Right, especially because, I mean, say what you will about Christie, ball handling, offense running, he's not good at it.
No,
he's not,
even by combo guard standards, he's not good at that.
He can get better, but he's not good yet. We do not have the time to get into the LeBron versus the haters. I do find it interesting, so maybe we'll talk about it a little bit this week, if even just for a couple minutes. The rotation stuff is going to continue to be interesting, and this notion of, hopefully he plays well tonight, but this notion of how much time do you give Spencer Dinwiddie to get going? What's the value there? There's a bit of an analog from some of the stuff that we had last year post-trade deadline with Malik Beasley. So we'll get into all of that this week. Very busy week, very interesting week for the Lakers. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 23,000 subscribers. We, of course, will be back here after tonight's game to break it all down. Hopefully a big win for the Lakers at home, but we'll see. We'll see everyone tomorrow.